Basketball is often described as a game of athleticism, speed, strength, vertical leap, explosiveness. The players who dominate highlight reels usually soar through the air or overpower defenders with force. When fans think of great post players, they often imagine violence. George Mikan imposing his will on defenders. Wilt Chamberlain overwhelming opponents with unmatched size. Bill Russell controlling the paint. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar launching skyhooks beyond reach. Moses Malone attacking the glass. Charles Barkley bullying bigger opponents. Patrick Ewing battling in the trenches. David Robinson sprinting through the lane. Shaquille O'Neal shaking entire backboards. And Hakeem Olajuwon dancing through defenders. Many of the greatest post players used power. Many used force. Many used athletic dominance. But what if I told you one of the greatest post players in basketball history used something different? What if one of the greatest big men ever relied on mathematics? What if one of the greatest post players ever understood geometry better than he understood intimidation? His name was Tim Duncan. And for nearly 2 decades, he quietly solved basketball's most difficult equations. Geometry is the branch of mathematics concerned with space, distance, shape, angles, size, and positioning. Geometry explains how buildings stand. Geometry explains how bridges function. Geometry explains how architects design cities. Geometry explains how planets move through space. And in San Antonio, geometry explained how Tim Duncan scored thousands of points. Most players attacked defenders. Tim Duncan studied them. Most players tried to overpower opponents. Tim Duncan tried to outposition them. Most players saw a basketball court. Tim Duncan saw angles. The basketball court is actually a giant geometric diagram. Lines, rectangles, circles, squares, angles, distances, measurements. Every inch matters. Every angle matters. Every position matters. Tim Duncan understood this better than almost anyone who has ever played basketball. The first lesson in post play is location. A great post player understands where to catch the ball. Catch the ball too high and the defense has room to recover. Catch the ball too low and the baseline becomes a trap. Catch the ball too far from the basket and the shot becomes difficult. Catch the ball too close and help defenders arrive immediately. Position is everything. Geometry begins with position. Tim Duncan mastered position. Before he even touched the basketball, he was already creating advantages. He knew where his feet needed to be. He knew where the defender's feet needed to be. He knew where the help defense would come from. He understood the relationship between all 3 points. Like a mathematician studying coordinates. Like an architect examining blueprints. Like a surveyor measuring land. Tim Duncan measured space. Most fans never noticed. That was the beauty of it. The greatest geometric solutions often appear simple, yet simplicity requires understanding. The post-up begins with awareness. One of the first things coaches teach is to look middle. The middle reveals information. Where is the double team? Where is the help defender? Where is the open shooter? Where is the available space? Tim Duncan constantly gathered information. Before making a move, he already knew the answer. He wasn't reacting. He was calculating. Basketball players often describe the game as slowing down. For Tim Duncan, the game resembled a geometry problem. Observe, analyze, solve. The answer always existed. He simply had to find it. This is where the bank shot enters the story. The bank shot is one of the most misunderstood weapons in basketball. Many players view it as a backup plan. Tim Duncan treated it as a science. Most people remember the result. Very few understand the mathematics. A bank shot is essentially a problem involving angles. When the ball strikes the backboard at the correct location, it changes direction toward the basket. Too high, and it misses. Too low, and it misses. Too hard, and it bounces away. Too soft, and it falls short. Precision matters. Geometry matters. Tim Duncan became basketball's greatest geometric artist. The famous white square, painted on every backboard, became his graph paper. The upper corners became reference points. The angle became the equation. The basketball became the solution. For years, defenders knew exactly what Duncan wanted. It didn't matter. They still couldn't stop it, because geometry does not care about emotion. Geometry does not care about effort. Geometry only cares about accuracy. Tim Duncan was accurate. Again, and again, and again. The backboard became his closest teammate. The two never spoke. They didn't need to. They understood one another. Most players aimed directly for the hoop. Tim Duncan often aimed somewhere else. That is the genius of geometry. Sometimes the shortest path is not the smartest path. Sometimes the best solution involves an indirect route. Tim Duncan understood this. Rather than challenge the rim directly, he used the backboard as an intermediary. The ball would strike glass, change direction, lose velocity, and gently fall through the basket. The process looked effortless. The mathematics were not. Physics and geometry worked together. The rigid surface of the backboard absorbed energy. The angle redirected momentum. The basket accepted the result. The crowd barely noticed. 2 points, another possession, another lesson in geometry. One reason Duncan's game aged so gracefully is because geometry never gets old. Athleticism fades. Speed fades. Vertical leap fades. Geometry remains. The angle that worked at 25 works at 35. The distance remains constant. The shape of the square remains unchanged. The solution remains available. Tim Duncan built an entire Hall of Fame career on permanent truths. That is why his game appeared timeless. The court never changed. Neither did the mathematics. Many players rely on unpredictability. Tim Duncan relied on certainty. His moves weren't complicated. His counters weren't flashy. His footwork wasn't theatrical. Yet everything served a purpose. Every pivot altered an angle. Every step created space. Every shoulder fake shifted positioning. Every movement changed geometry. Basketball often appears chaotic. Bodies collide. Defenders rotate. Crowds roar. The ball moves rapidly. Yet Duncan somehow created order. He reduced complexity into simplicity. The same way a mathematician reduces an equation. The same way a geometric proof transforms confusion into clarity. His greatest gift may have been understanding space. Space is invisible. You cannot touch it. You cannot hold it. Yet basketball is ultimately a battle for space. Who controls it? Who creates it? Who denies it? Tim Duncan manipulated space like a sculptor. One step moved a defender. One pivot created a lane. One shoulder turn opened a passing angle. Small adjustments produced major consequences. That is geometry. Tiny changes creating entirely different outcomes. Many defenders believed they were guarding Duncan correctly. Then they discovered they were 6 inches out of position. 6 inches is insignificant in everyday life. 6 inches is enormous in basketball. Geometry magnifies details. So did Tim Duncan. The greatest example of Duncan's geometric mastery was consistency. Night after night, season after season, year after year, the same results appeared. Not because defenders were unintelligent, not because defenders were weak, because mathematics is difficult to defeat, especially when the person applying it understands it completely. The San Antonio Spurs became basketball's greatest engineering project. Everything fit, everything connected, everything functioned efficiently. At the center stood Tim Duncan, calm, measured, precise, like a geometry teacher standing at a chalkboard. Never rushed, never emotional, never distracted, simply solving problems. The championships followed. 5 NBA championships, 3 finals MVPs, 2 MVP awards, 15 All-NBA selections, 15 All-Defensive selections. A resume built on consistency rather than spectacle. Many players demanded attention. Tim Duncan earned respect. There is a difference. Poetry often celebrates beauty. Most people associate beauty with excitement. Tim Duncan teaches a different lesson. Beauty can also exist in precision. Beauty can exist in efficiency. Beauty can exist in simplicity. The perfect angle, the perfect bank shot, the perfect position, the perfect solution. That is poetry. And that is why Tim Duncan belongs in Poetry of the Post. Because every possession felt like a mathematical poem. Every move had structure. Every counter had purpose. Every shot had logic. The rhythm never changed. The message never changed. The result rarely changed. 2 points, another stop, another victory, another lesson. Geometry is the study of space, distance, shape, size, and angles. Tim Duncan mastered all of them. He understood where to stand. He understood where defenders stood. He understood where the help defense was coming from. He understood the angle of the glass. He understood the geometry of the court. Most importantly, he understood that basketball is not always won by the strongest player. Sometimes it is won by the smartest one. For nearly 20 years, Tim Duncan turned mathematics into championships. He transformed geometry into greatness. He transformed angles into banners. He transformed simplicity into immortality. And somewhere between the block, the backboard, and the basket, Tim Duncan proved that numbers can be beautiful. Because while other post players conquered through force, Tim Duncan conquered through geometry. And geometry never loses.